Now, the Prime Minister has announced a long-awaited energy strategy which promises cleaner and more affordable homegrown energy. And Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng joins us now. I understand you're at Hinkley Point C this morning, Mr. Kwarteng.
I am.
Very good place to be when talking about energy. Yeah, an appropriate place to be.
Absolutely right.
Now, there are critics of the strategy, aren't there? We've spoken to some of them this morning on the programme, as you won't be surprised to hear, saying that it's delayed, it's over budget, and it's not going to start delivering renewable energy, clean energy, or making our bills any cheaper anytime soon. Ed Miliband, former Energy Secretary, now Shadow, said that there are, right now, planning permission approved onshore wind farms that, if we just tick the box and approve them, could be up and running, delivering energy that would release us from the grip of Russian oil and gas within 2 years. Why did you not take that option?
So we're very focused in the strategy on offshore wind and also on onshore wind. But we've always said that onshore wind has to have local consent, and that's where perhaps Ed Miliband and I
because I challenged him on that, as you might say, Mr. God. I'm sorry, I'm not interrupting you. You might maybe not see the interview. He claims that this has already got planning permission approval, already got local consent, and indeed, when those people have been questioned, they now see, even those that were in opposition of it at the time, see the benefit of it. So is this a different pressure other than that that's preventing you from giving a tick to that box?
No, it isn't at all. I mean, as the strategy makes clear, we're committed to more onshore wind. Now, I need to look at the specific planning consents to talk about where these specific projects are, but generally, we are very committed to onshore wind deployment, as we are with offshore wind as well.
The problem is that nuclear energy, which everybody agrees should be part of a, well, not everybody, actually, there's some that are fundamentally against nuclear energy, but broadly speaking, people can see that needs to form part of the strategy for the future. That's 10 years away.
It can be not as long as 10 years. We've got small modular reactors, which I think can come on stream in less time. But you're right, it's a longer-term plan. We've got a great British nuclear vehicle for the first time. And I think you're quite right to say, or to suggest, that we could have done a lot of this maybe 20, 30 years ago, 10 years ago. But we're on the plan now. We're in a geopolitical world where there are incredibly high gas prices. Putin is manipulating the market, as we've seen. And it's really, really important, and the Prime Minister was very clear about this, that we had an energy security strategy, and I'm delighted to be able to publish it today.
Now, something else that's part of this debate is insulation, isn't it? 7 million households potentially being in fuel stress by the end of the year, and insulation could help that. You have been for a budget to help insulation, I understand, but the Chancellor has blocked extra funding to pay for that. That must have been very frustrating for you. Did he give you an explanation as to why he did that?
Well, I saw the report in the newspaper. It's not really quite where we are. We committed to billions of funding for things like the Home Upgrade Grant. We've got a boiler upgrade scheme. There are lots of commitments in the manifesto in 2019. Those were reinforced in the budget and also in the spending review, which I negotiated with the Treasury. And there's billions committed to public sector, public buildings,
there was going to be this
decarbonisation, better insulation.
Wasn't there, that didn't happen, and we understand that it's the Chancellor that blocked that. Did he say why?
No, I don't. That's not how this worked at all. There was a comprehensive spending review at the end of last year, which set out funds for 3 years. And that was all signed up across government and also with the Treasury. We've committed to that. So everything that comes in the strategy is within what we call the envelope of the spending plans that were announced at the end of last year. And everything has had agreement with the Treasury from at the end of last year, and also to the publication of the plan today. Okay. So I don't know where the reports, what they were based on, but I don't think that's an accurate reflection of what actually happened.
Okay, Mr. Kwarteng, I mean, you know, we are in a terrible energy crisis. We are in the biggest cost of living crisis that many of us have lived in, actually, of our generation. There are people watching Good Morning Britain this morning who are having to choose whether they're going to eat today or heat up their home today. So is it right, the very man who made those decisions for most of the people in this country lives with one of the wealthiest people in the country who has made a decision not to pay all her tax in the UK? Is that in any way right? Why is it that people watching this TV show now have to deal with high national insurance, whereas the very wealthy, like Mr. Sunak's wife, Miss Murty, can choose to make sure that her money and her tax is not paid here in the UK?
So I'm not an expert on her tax affairs, but from what I understand, she is an Indian citizen, so she doesn't have dual citizenship. She has Indian citizenship, and as a consequence of that, she's what is called a non-domiciled
I think that's Adil's point. That's Adil's point, that she has chosen not to take up
She's been here 7 years. I mean, my father came from Pakistan. He had no choice. He came in, he drove buses. Lots of people. He had to be a UK citizen. He doesn't get these options. These options seem to only be available to the wealthy. She can come to this country, live here for 7 years, benefit from being a UK citizen, but choose not to pay all her taxes here.
She's not a UK citizen. Adil, she's not a UK citizen.
But she benefits.
She's not a UK citizen.
But she benefits like a UK citizen. She's been here for 7 years, Mr. Kwarteng. Why is that fair?
So she's an Indian citizen, and so she will have, and she can't have dual citizenship if she's an Indian citizen. That's my understanding, and that's the point she made.
But she could choose to become a UK citizen. I think that's Adil's question.
She's made the decision, hasn't she?
And you're quite right. After 15 years, she can't be a non-dom. After 15 years, she will have to pay tax on everything here. In the meantime, as an Indian citizen, she pays tax on UK income here. That she generates here in the UK.
So it's not illegal. We're clear on that. We know it's not illegal,
in
and
India,
it's not. She's not trying to get out. It's nothing. There's nothing illegal. She's
it's very transparent.
The tax rules. That's
it's very clear.
But I suppose that the principle is that it's the way it looks. You know, and what it speaks to is a sense of the person making the decision that is having such a devastating impact on millions of people's lives isn't part of the same rules somehow. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, he's already...
But she's following the rules.
He's following the law, but he's not having to experience what the millions of people who are living through the decisions he's made, and neither is his wife. So look, there's nothing illegal here, you're absolutely right. He has every right to be married to somebody, and we can't attack people just because they happen to be from a family that's wealthy. That wouldn't be right either. But do you feel uncomfortable about the way this appears?
Look, what I am concerned about is that she was following the law, and that there's transparency, and there's been complete transparency about her situation as a non-domiciled resident, as it were. Yeah. But that's been around for 200 years. We've had non-dom status for 200 years.
The point is...
and it's very clear what that means.
Let me put it another way. A few weeks ago, Mr. Kwarteng, you said people are willing to endure hardships. That's how you put it. Hardships in this country in solidarity with Ukraine. What kind of hardships are you suffering at the moment? And
that's absolutely the right situation that we find ourselves in.
No, but
like everybody else,
hardships are for the lower and middle-income families. What hardships are you suffering? What hardships has Rishi Sunak's wife suffering at the moment?
I am facing much higher bills like everybody else.
Is it a hardship? Are you struggling? Do you think you're struggling in the same way?
I earn a good salary as a cabinet minister. And of course, I earn a good salary as a cabinet minister. I can't pretend that I'm on the breadline. But like everybody else, we are facing higher energy bills. And what the Chancellor did was to try and address that, has addressed that, with the £9.1 billion package that he announced in January. So it was £150 off council tax for bands A to D. There was £200 committed to the bills. We've widened what's called the warm home discount. There were 2 million people who could apply, who were eligible for that. Now there are 3 million. And we're doing what we can to mitigate what is a global price increase. It's a global crisis. Energy prices around the world are much higher than they have been in the past, and that's what we're focused on dealing with, and that's why we want to have a longer-term strategy that can give us more independence, and that's why I'm here in Hinkley Point announcing this, that can have more independence in the next few years, so that we're not in a situation where we're dependent on very, very high gas prices. We need to have wider sources of, more diverse sources of energy. Onshore wind, you've mentioned, offshore wind, nuclear also is a key part of that mix. And with those different technologies, we will have more independence and more security in the future.
On top of that, when we talk about the living crisis, how worried are you that an Environment Select Committee report has warned that we've got acute labour shortages in agriculture, and they've estimated, probably more than this, the figure they're saying, but 27,000 pigs have been culled up and down the country at a time when people are desperate for food? That seems to be a real awful situation we find ourselves in. How worried are you about that?
It's a difficult situation. So the labour shortage is something that's happening across the world and across different sectors. I mean, as business secretary, I speak to people in lots of different sectors, and they all make the point that it's very difficult to attract labour. And that's an international problem. I mean, that's something which all governments are facing right now. There's been a huge, there was a huge uplift
report says it's Brexit,
in global
it's Brexit
economic...
and COVID. The report has clearly said it's a result of Brexit and COVID.
Obviously they're going to say it's...
That's the Select Committee report.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is that, yes, Brexit may be a factor, but we're seeing shortages across the world. I speak to my counterparts in the US, the Commerce Secretary, the Energy Secretary, and they make exactly the same points. They've got a massive shortage, for example, of HGV drivers in the US. They've got a shortage of agricultural workers. And of course, in the US, that has nothing to do with Brexit. It's a global phenomenon, and it's something that we all have to deal with in government across the world.
Okay. Kwasi Kwarteng, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.